Welcome back to the Investor Shed podcast. My name is R.D. Means. I'm here with Nick Beveridge and Jeremy Kitchen on my first podcast ever. I'm very excited to be here and excited for the new year.
Oh, you couldn't have said that better.
Thanks.
Because I don't talk that well.
He's right. Very good job, RD. RD, thank you so much for joining us on the Investor Shed podcast today. We really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We got a good day to talk to you, and I think it's going to be a good experience for a lot of our listeners. So before we kind of get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into real estate investing.
Got me into real estate investing. Well, my name is R.D. That's for Joseph. Samuel means the third. It's Erd for the third. It's complicated. I got it as a kid.
From a babysitter, right?
From a babysitter. Yep. So you write the 3, the RD.
Gave you your name that you use today.
Use today. 43. Yeah. Couldn't change. Got into real estate investing when I was younger. Just accidentally basically got some money as an inheritance.
Okay.
Bought some land.
Yeah.
Saw the power of that and then continued on to today.
Cool. Well, there's a lot to circle back there, obviously. So you got some money at an inheritance, and you bought some land. What did you do? How did you start that? What did you just find a plot of land and think like, yeah, I guess I'm just going to buy this, or what was the thought process behind all that?
Well, I was 11, so there wasn't a lot of thought.
Okay.
It was really it was land. It was on a lake. Mm-hmm. It was in Marysville, Washington, and it was beautiful. And it just seemed like, wow, why not?
How do you buy land at 11 years old?
Yeah, why aren't you buying Nintendo games?
Right.
I had good parents. They wouldn't let me spend it on Nintendo games, so it was kind of easier to do
Are you
what
saying
they
our parents
wanted.
were bad?
Did you have enough to buy land? And
No,
then
we
you
didn't
spent
have
on
enough to buy
Nintendo?
land. We had enough to buy Nintendo games.
Okay, gotcha. I actually did not have a Nintendo. I had no video games whatsoever in my childhood, so I was it was a hard childhood.
That's rough.
Yeah, it was really rough.
Yeah, that's the only thing that kept me going when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Is video games?
Yeah, I think so. It's the only thing that gave me any kind of comfort in life.
Nick and I would ride our bikes all over town and then come back to his house and play the Sega Dreamcast. That was our childhood.
That was your childhood?
Yeah.
So I rode my bike, but we would go out and play paintball after we rode our bike. So I guess that was kind of, as far as land, I don't think at 11 I actually had paintball. I was actually the same time. So somewhere around the same time, I bought the land, we got into paintball, and we lived on a little bit of land in Bothell, Washington, and so we had enough space to be able to shoot at each other after riding bikes.
Got it.
And so we then just basically were able to kind of transition into that.
Well, let's break that down, because I really want to say, how do you buy land at 11? Did your parents help you buy it, or was it your money that funded it, or did you buy it as a co-investor with your parents? What did that look like? Like, an 11-year-old trying to buy land, you can't just give, the state a check and get land, can you?
Basically.
Really?
Yeah. It was in my name. It wasn't in my parents' name. So it was money in my account, and I was able to my knowledge, I didn't have no one else was on the deed other than myself.
Okay.
So
Didn't know you can do that.
I didn't know you could do that either, and maybe I'm totally wrong. I often get a lot of details wrong, so there could be some sort of. It was a couple of years ago, but to my knowledge, because when I sold it, I didn't have to have anyone else sign off on that. So money in trust, when I was in the bank, I had to have that. They were on that as well. My parents were, but on the actual land, I believe it was just all in my name.
Okay. So let's talk about it then. So what did you buy? What was the purchase price on this first piece of land you bought?
It's a couple of years ago. I know it was 80 something. I want to say it was either $81,000 or $89,000.
How big is the land?
It was 14 acres.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Wow. That was more acres than I had at 11.
Yeah. But we had more Nintendo games than
You had way more Nintendo games.
So we win.
Yeah.
Sega? Yeah. I would go to my friend's house just to try to play Nintendo and Sega, and then my parents would find out and tell me anyways. Doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's strict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so no Crazy Taxi for you growing up.
I'm not even actually sure what that is.
It's a Dreamcast game.
Oh, okay,
One
gotcha.
of the most popular Dreamcast games.
Okay.
The Offspring did the soundtrack.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know how I remember that, but so you bought 13, 14 acres as an 11-year-old, and were you into real estate investing? Was the idea to be like, I want to make money off this land, or did you just buy it just because?
Just bought it because my dad was really into. He was trying to be into real estate. Mm-hmm. He was trying to be into a lot of things. There was 5 kids, and he had a full-time job as well. But he knew the power of real estate and really instilled that into me and said, hey, this will cover a lot of sins.
Okay.
This will fix a lot of problems.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So before you were 11, did you have it in your mind that you wanted to buy real estate, or is it just kind of like, did it all happen that quickly? Like, do you remember earlier in childhood wanting to own land or anything like that?
Probably. So when you're a kid, you're almost indoctrinated into whatever your parents think.
Yeah.
And so you're spending all of your time doing whatever they say. My dad knew that real estate, my grandfather, really into real estate. He was the person that gave me the original funds to be able to do all of that. He was really into real estate, and he understood the value of it. My mom and my dad both understood it and really pushed it as well. So probably I had some sort of thought like that. I do know that I knew the McDonald's story, and that McDonald's was really more about owning real estate than it was about the business. So then at some point, I was always very entrepreneurial. I was always far more the physical do as opposed to an asset. I didn't really understand assets, but I will say I had amortization charts. I know that sounds weird, but I had amortization charts associated with compounding interest somewhere around there, around 11. Maybe it was 10, maybe it was 12. And once you look at what an amortization chart will do for you over time, your mind is blown.
Okay.
And I knew I liked money. And so then I knew that in theory, real estate would do the same thing an amortization chart would do for me.
So did you go to like a public school, or did you go to private school or homeschool?
I was homeschooled, and then I went to a private school.
Gotcha. So during your homeschool, did they slip in like, here's some amortization charts? Like the school system doesn't want you teaching in this, but check out this. Check out what compound interest is, bro.
It really kind of was that way. Like I said, indoctrination, but in the best way possible, where you just realize what the options are, what you can actually do. You realize what taxes can do for or against you, and then you realize how much money you can make just on something sitting there and working for you.
Why did you mentioned earlier that you said you knew you liked money. What made you like money?
What makes you like money?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, like in my 30s, it's financial freedom, it's peace of mind for my family and stuff. I didn't have those concepts at 11, and that's what I'm trying to get at. Like the concepts we had at 11 were like buy sports cards, spend our money on video games, and like we would get a job and we'd go flat broke again the next week because we just blow all of our money. Am I correct, Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
we
like,
just
11, like
didn't grow-
16, 17, right? Like, as soon as we were working, we were like, we'd get a paycheck, and then we'd spend our paycheck. And that was kind of the life we lived.
Yeah,
So,
and I
like-
still feel like we were above most people.
Sure.
Because most of our friends, and people from school and stuff, they weren't working as hard as we were.
Right.
And they were like relying on their parents to buy them stuff. At least our parents like kind of taught us to go out and work.
Right.
So at least I had that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like the freedom to, like we had paper outs at a very young age.
Right, right.
And I know we were working throughout all of our teenage years.
Yeah.
But yeah, we weren't really taught to like, we weren't taught about like compound interest
We were
and
taught to appreciate
savings.
money as a kid. That's
Yeah,
what I'm asking,
yes.
basically, right? So, like, I didn't have a concept of like savings. I didn't have a concept of like what you said of compound interest or anything like that. So what was the thought process in owning the land? Was it like, is this going to make me more money? And what was the plan with that money?
I didn't have a plan other than I wanted more.
Yeah.
But I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. When I was maybe 9 or something like that, I found there was a place called B&I in Tacoma, Washington, and they had these knives that looked like they were switchblades. They weren't. They were just a regular knife, but they looked like a switchblade. I bought one of them. I brought it back to our church. I was playing with it at church. Another kid saw it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Different time. But anyways, I was playing with it at church, and they said, wow, that's really cool. I want that. I said, oh, yeah, it is pretty cool. I like it. I was just enjoying this thing to myself. They then said, I will give you $20 for that. Well, B&I is like, they imported from China before that was anything. So it was like $1.50 I paid for this knife or something like that. Wow. And so I said, sold.
Yeah, rate of return's there. We're good.
Rate of return. I took that same $20 back to Tacoma. The next time we went to see our grandma, and I bought $20 worth of knives.
Yeah.
Came back, sold all of them, went back with the rest of the money, bought everything else I could find, and then sold the rest of that. And then I had money for days. people treat you different when you have money.
Did you sell all these at church?
Yes. Every single one.
I don't think God approves of that, buddy.
You got to be protected, right? The
Hey, God
Israelites,
helped
they're out
make
there.
knives. Okay. God wanted more knives.
You would be
Instead of
amazed.
tithing to the church, you're tithing to Artie's
I
pocket, right?
absolutely tithed on that knife
Good,
profit.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, don't worry. Yeah. It was so you kind of realize how powerful that is. There was a thing called Royal Rangers. You'd go there and they have this thing that they had, the trading blanket, and you'd go and you'd bring different stuff, and everyone's bringing different stuff. And my parents would tell me stories about who made the money. So the gold rush. Seattle is kind of partially because the Alaskan gold rush. That's how Seattle partially got created. And they talked about picks and shovels. Those are the people that made the money. So, and even in Royal Rangers, they talked about the same thing. We go to this trading blanket, and every year you're out in the middle of the woods with like a week for a bunch of boys, several hundred to 1,000 boys. I then kind of figured out I had some soda. My mom would always give me stuff. I had sodas and drinks and all these different things that I had for myself.
Yep.
At the end of the week, by the end of the week, these things were going for $20 a piece. Once again, people just had too much money.
Yeah.
So then every time I'd go, I'd bring more and more snacks. And I guess it's kind of gouging, now that I think about what I'm saying. But it's,
No, it's
Did your mom,
supply
did your
and
mom
demand.
know that you were reselling the snacks she was packing you?
My mom did, and she was so proud.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, she's a hustler.
Did
so
she expect like a little taste?
No, she's a mom. She
Okay.
loves me. She just said, but she wouldn't pay for the next time. I had to come up with the money the next
Gotcha.
time.
Well, I expect to taste of my kids. If my kids making money off my product, you better cut me in, buddy.
You better.
It's funny that you bring that up because, like, my daughter, she's turning 1, obviously far off from starting a business, but I'm talking about it with my wife, and I said, okay, some of the ways I want her to get what she wants in life is like to, actually go out and do it. And we're going to set up snack shops down at the beach. So like little pretzels, sodas, exactly what you're talking about. I'm not going to gouge people on $20 a can, for God's sake. But I'm going to make a little bit of profit. And that little bit of profit's going to fund her IRA, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm going to fund her retirement account with this little stuff and this little bath bombs that we're going to make. But I want to teach her about business doing that. So it's a really good way to get started in business, for sure.
I will tell you, the reason why the sodas by the end got so expensive, especially the first year, was I wanted the soda.
Oh, yeah.
It was actually, I did not want to give this up, and I was not negotiating at that point.
Yeah.
I was saying, I would rather have this, and people would still be coming to me saying, I want this more than you want it, and I'm going to give you this ridiculous price for it. So it wasn't like a price on a blanket.
Right, okay.
That then also helped teach negotiation, because you realized if someone really wants something and you just wait, you can be fairly passive. I will tell you, one of the first jobs that I had from my parents was picking up rocks. Picking up rocks, I got a penny a rock. I got a half a cent for a rock in the beginning. I got a half a cent for a rock, and I saved up enough to buy a mountain bike. It was the Nirvana something. It was an REI mountain bike. It was $500 and some odd, and I picked up rocks at a half a penny a rock to a penny a rock to get $500.
Are you still willing to do that for that price today? Because my backyard is full of rocks, Artie.
No, and I'm paying my kids 10 cents a rock, and they still won't do it.
Inflation.
So,
yeah.
well, yeah, I guess, but yeah, I got to figure out how to teach my kids that.
Sure.
I don't know where drive comes from. I think sometimes you just learn a lesson, and once you've learned that lesson, it then becomes a part of you, and you say, hey, and sometimes you don't learn the lesson. I've had plenty of other lessons I've continued to bang my head against and never learned.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think, like getting that drive, was there anybody that you admired that you just wanted to be more like that was driven? Is that what caused it? Or do you feel like you just kind of circumstantially had it at that age?
I think I was, like I said, indoctrination has a bad rap, but I think it also has a good rap. My parents were fairly intentional with what they tried to tell us and what they tried to show. If you go and you pick up a rock and your back is hurting and you're like 7 years old because you just picked up rocks all day, you then realize it's easier to do it. There's an easier way to do this. So I can definitely go out and pick up the rocks, but I'd rather do it an easier way. I think the drive comes from, let's not have to break our back every single day. Every step that I've been, it's mostly been moving away from pain more than moving towards pleasure. So I think the drive is like, this hurts. Can we figure out a better way?
Yeah. Right on. So I think we better give our audience, since we're already almost 15 minutes in. We haven't really talked about like we just talked about you buying a property at 11 and then selling knives to your church. But so Artie, you've been working on our team for the last 2 months now.
Yeah.
Doing awesome.
Yeah.
You've done more than I've seen most agents do in a year in just the last 2 months that have been on my team in the past. And we're just blown away by how driven you are, how much you're willing to work, and we're boggled by how much extra stuff you have going on in your life because you have 2 other jobs. So this is like your third job that you're trying to get into.
Quitting
more
one of them
time.
the 13th of January. Very excited.
Yeah. And you've got rental properties. You're kind of newer to this area in general. What, 2 years or so?
Basically,
here?
kind of 2.5.
And you want to get, in real estate full time.
Absolutely.
Which you're well on your way to do that. But
yeah.
I mean, the other jobs, like they're not easy. That you're doing door-to-door spectrum sales just to learn more about sales. It was more not necessarily just because that's the job that was available. You chose to do that just to go knock on doors and get that practice, and you become one of the top salesmen in the entire company. And then you also are a self-employed electrician, which I don't think it's that easy of a field to just jump into. You kind of have to put some effort into it, become an electrician, but how are you able to juggle all this, and you have a family, and you have all the everything else going on in your life? How do you know how to prioritize your time, or are you still trying to figure that out?
I think I'm always going to be figuring that out. As far as how do I do it, the first thing, I want to say this right into the camera. Annalisa, I love you, babe. I couldn't do it without you. So my wife absolutely holds down the family and makes it so that I can afford to do different tasks. Doesn't push me into like, oh, you got to do this or that. It makes a big difference at home having someone that's supportive. And then Google Calendar, yeah.
That's from the 3 of us, by the way. We all love his wife.
Yeah, Hillary's not watching, so no shout outs to Hillary. Sorry,
but Google Calendar also changed my life.
Okay, that's good.
I didn't know how to do a lot of things. I stand on the shoulders of giants. Even going and doing Spectrum as a job, someone said, if you want to go and learn how to do real estate, because I wanted to do real estate about 10 years ago, start putting in a plan to how I was going to be able to do that. And they said, I went and I asked other real estate agents. I asked about the agents in the area. I asked about a bunch of stuff, but one of the things I said is, what would you say is going to make you the most successful? What's going to be the thing that would allow me to know whether or not I can do it? And they said, if you can do door-to-door sales, then you can do real estate. And I got that from a couple different people, and I said, okay, let's do that. I like asymmetric bets, so I don't like anything that I have to pay to go and learn. I'd rather learn on someone else's dime.
I love that.
Someone else is winning while I'm winning there as well. Yep. So I had a good management team over at Spectrum that then was able to teach me all of these things, and I could still make them the money that they needed to then be successful. It was a one hand washing the other sort of a deal.
So I never actually, I'm going to pause you there. You just said something that just a light bulb just went off in my head, because I was always wondering, like, why are you door knocking? That's so hard. But you are right. It's like you're almost guaranteed success if you just knock on doors. And if you don't stop. And if you keep knocking on doors, because statistically you're going to run into people that are going to buy from you. Now, you're in North Idaho and you're knocking on doors and you're a black man. How do you do that?
You know what? North Idaho is absolutely amazing. I haven't had an issue. I really haven't had an issue. It is funny.
You weren't here in the 90s, though.
I wasn't here in the 90s. Everyone that I said that I was going to Hayden, I live in Hayden, and so everyone I said I was going to Hayden, they always said, are you sure? So it is famous for that, but I'm telling you, come on down. It's amazing here. Yeah. Everyone is so friendly. It is so much better. I love Seattle. Seattle is where I grew up, but I will say absolutely no question about it. The people in Idaho are kinder, gentler, and will do more for you just out of the kindness of their heart, as opposed to anything else. Not calling out Seattle, but I will say I have found that to be consistently true. Even from every single standpoint, I have found that to be true. So very, very easy. But you also just, when you're dealing with that person, I truly try to empathize with what they want. don't sell something that someone doesn't want. Don't sell something that someone doesn't need. I've never made a sale. I spend more time with the people that I'm talking to making a sale. They said that I'm like an extra 2 hours above everyone else as far as that time that I'm spending with them. But I want to make sure that they actually get what they want, get what they need. And why not? They're buying something. We should give them high quality service.
Yeah.
But yeah, door to door is amazing. If you want to, I don't think it has anything to do with race, but I will say it will help you learn.
I just threw that in there because you're in
Right.
North Idaho.
Right.
And door to door, just on the face of it, is just scary to me in general.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it's the scariest.
You're a white
form of
man.
lead
There's nothing to be scared of. Okay.
Oh no, but I've done it. I've done. I knew that was something that was important and a good source of leads when I was just got in real estate and I started door knocking in Florida, and it was just the hardest thing. My heart was just pounding every time. People finally open the door and I'm just like out of breath.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say anymore. I just have a flyer, and it was just so nerve-wracking to me. It was the most uncomfortable form of lead generation I've ever practiced. And then I tried it again in Idaho, and I moved back, and it was just the same old story. And I just could not get myself to do it. You don't seem to have an issue with it at all.
I like toe-to-toe chopping it up is what I say. I love chopping it up toe-to-toe, just hanging out, having a conversation. I also believe in real estate. So I believe in Jesus and I believe in real estate. And if you tell me that I got to talk to somebody about something that I believe that is a good thing for them, that they actually need and want, and or at least should want and probably do need, that's there's no problem. We're going to do this. The same thing is true of the internet, though. It's not like I'm selling solar panels or something like that. It is just a straight up, you're going to have the internet, you're going to have a cell phone.
Yeah.
You might as well take what we have.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
So you believe in it?
I believe in it.
That's a good
you
first
have
step.
to believe in it.
Yeah.
You have
Believe
to
in what you're
it.
selling.
Yeah.
So you're coming to their door, not with an interruption, but an opportunity. Is that the way you feel?
Absolutely. And I also will leave if I think that it is just an interruption.
Yeah.
So
Because I've always felt like I was just interrupting people. That was just in my heart. I'm just like, maybe I just didn't believe in what I was about to sell enough. But I always just that was my overwhelming fear, is like, I'm interrupting someone. I'm interrupting somebody. I'm scaring someone's kids.
Yeah.
Pissing off someone's dogs.
Yeah.
Right?
Pissing off dogs. You're always interrupting.
To make you a millionaire. I'm here to make you a millionaire. Not that you're not. That's what I'm here for. And that's what you're doing. You actually, it's always very interesting, turning it around on you guys. It's interesting, how many millionaires have you created through what you have done? Whether it be your meetup, this podcast, somebody that said, I'm going to do something different today. I'm going to go and take this chance. And how many real estate millionaires are there out there?
Yeah.
How many real estate millionaires are there? 7. Okay.
At least.
Minimum.
I haven't counted on both ends, but at least 7.
Okay, so you probably got 1 or 2 of them in there.
Yeah.
So when I'm interrupting you, I might be interrupting you, but I'm interrupting you to change your life for the better. There is nothing else there. I don't know how I could interrupt you anymore. I think working out is another important thing. And so if I was knocking on someone's door to ask them if they wanted to work out, that would, I guess, be the next level of awkward for me. That would be hard. Even though
Have you done that?
No.
Door workouts?
But I do ask people if they'd like to work out with me, and I work out with a couple of people that I door knocked.
Okay.
And they didn't even buy internet from me. Wow. So I do believe, if you believe in whatever you believe, and you ask someone to be a part of that, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that that is an opportunity, and it is your imperative. It is your responsibility to offer that to them, and then let them choose whatever they want to choose.
Yeah. By the way, side note, people, don't ever agree to work out with RD. I decided, hey, you want to be a running buddy? Because we're getting ready for Ironman. He's like, yeah, sure. And then like our second run is a 14-mile. And you're like, no, let's keep going. You're relentless.
Relentless. I love being relentless. I do want to work out with you guys. That is something I love, working out in fun ways. Begin with the end in mind. Have your life be what you want to be. So work out, do whatever you want to do. Enjoy your life.
For sure. I will go back to your door-to-door sales real quick, Artie. And Nick, what you're saying, I think you have to be cut from a certain cloth to really do that work. It's something that it terrifies me. honestly, door-to-door sales, door knocking, like, again, I've gotten the mindset where, I feel like I'm interrupting people. It's not for me, but congrats to you. Like, and I want to say, like, specifically, like, I could be wrong on the numbers, but were you number one in the company?
It depends on the metrics that you're looking at. It's very, very complicated, and it was for like 2 days.
Hey, man, you can be on the top for as long as you want, but I'm just saying, like, you made it to the top of an entire sales board. How many sales professionals were at Spectrum?
Well, it gets complicated once again. There's 2,500, but it's not that they were all selling. So that's 2,500 people involved. Very, very specific. It has total sales and there's connections and all that. So any Spectrum buddies that are looking at it, depends on how you look at it, but I can back it up with
if you tweak the numbers, right? That's
a very humble answer.
Well, is this the job that you're going to be quitting then, or is this
the other job that I've already put in my notice?
Okay,
Yep.
wow. And what you're going to do with this is you're going to take that extra time and you're going to devote it directly into real estate. Is that what I'm assuming?
That's exactly right.
Wow. And real quick, Nick, I know Artie's on your team. How many deals has he closed or worked on since he started?
Well, you had 3 go pending in like a month or so.
Pretty good.
Now, not everything closes, but I think you already closed on one.
One is closed.
And
then two are still
one's
past the
kinda
contingencies.
Yeah. But that's incredible because when you're first starting in real estate, if you can get in your first 3 months, if you can get 3 deals closed, like that's pretty amazing. And you were on track like month 1, and it's just mind blown because our team is a little bit different. Yeah, there are some leads, of course, but we're not paying $20,000 a month to Zillow for, cream of the crop leads of people that want to see a house right away. Like you were grinding through a lot of investor leads, which are usually a little bit tougher because investors want things cheap and they want things to make sense. But some just see the value in real estate and they're just with some investors, they're just ready to buy when they're ready to buy. And they'll take what they can take, and they know, long term, it's going to work out really well.
Right.
And those are the investors that we excel with. It's great to work once in a while with the home flippers and, the people that do find an incredible deal. But those deals are few and far between. But I don't know where I was going with that. Just saying, the performance, like you're getting results really quickly. And it's... to keep up that momentum while doing a couple other jobs is tough because real estate, as you know, can be demanding. If you're working with a lot of buyers, sometimes your schedule's a little bit more out of your control. You seem to still have you can handle a lot. I remember you were going out of town the other day to Seattle and I sent you a lead like you were making a sale. I think you're working your Spectrum job, and you were like, "Were you in someone's house when I called you?" Mm-hmm. You still answered my call, even though you were making a sale to somebody, and you were supposed to be going to Seattle to meet, with your family that already left on the road, and you were going on vacation for Christmas. And we just got this lead, and I'm like, "Oh, don't worry about it." I'm like, somebody just wants to see this house, and like, you're like, "No, I'm on it." And you were like, showed him like 45 minutes later. Yeah. Went and showed a house, and it's just you have a hard time saying no, which is a good thing in real estate. Eventually, you'll figure out what to say yes to and what to say no to. But it's incredible how much you're willing to just go ahead and do, no matter how busy you are. Something that not a lot of people can handle. So, yeah.
Trust your leadership. That's all that it is. With you and Joe, I vetted you guys pretty heavily. I found you online and then basically I kind of door knocked the real estate agents in the area, went to a bunch of open houses and asked, what do you think about Nick and Joe? I specifically was talking about Nick in the beginning because I didn't really actually know. It's kind of a long process to figure out all the players involved. Sure. But I asked a bunch of people, and they then said, "Oh, solid guy." Then looking at what you did and how you had to navigate through that whole process of the last couple of years and seeing, okay, solid people. Do they know what they're doing? Yes. Okay. Follow what they say.
So you already heard I was going through crisis, like a deal crisis?
Kind of right before I connected with you, I found out about that because you actually talked about it at the meetup and you talked about it on this podcast.
Okay.
And so it was about the same time that but I didn't know in the beginning, no, you were all really happy on this podcast for most, because I kind of went back and listened
Give
to all
some time, my friend.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, what's happening? I actually was nervous that you guys that you were going to go out of business possibly or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you actually, the funny thing is, you said a statement that I was like, okay, it's all good. You're like, it's fine. I'm still going to get to keep the Tesla. And I was like, okay, he's keeping his car.
Oh, you heard
good.
that?
Yes, you said it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I said that once or twice.
You said it a couple of times, I think, after the fact, but I was definitely nervous about what that was going to become, and but vetting people and knowing that they're actually going to do what they say, and that they know what they're doing, you might as well listen. With that customer, though, I had built enough rapport with them, helping them throughout the rest of their stuff. They didn't mind if I left because they were already totally sold on the packages we had, and they had some other stuff to do anyways. You might notice that I'm long-winded, so spending 2 hours in someone's house while they might be enjoying it, they also are sometimes ready for me to leave.
Okay. Oh, good. He got a call.
We can actually breathe through it. Cool.
We're behind the internet, okay? You can go now. What do you want? You want us to buy the phone, too?
They did buy the phone. They bought the internet, the phone, and TV.
Nice. Get the full package deal. So I want to kind of circle back. I know we kind of talked about it at the beginning. You know, you bought your first real estate deal at 11. You bought your acres. What happened then?
What happened then? Basically nothing for years and years.
Okay.
I actually eventually found girls. Mm-hmm. I found cars. I found other things to do. And I'm not going to say lost my way, but I didn't actually have a clear plan. So when I was younger, I was on the amortization schedules, physically filling those out, whereas totally different now.
Yeah.
But you kind of lose sight of that because you have other better things to spend your time on.
Sure.
I got into paintball. No Nintendo games, but paintball. Got really heavily into paintball. Opened up a paintball field when I was 17 on that land. And also my dad had some land right next to it. My mom and my dad had land next to it. So opened a paintball field there. Had the paintball field go bust. And that was kind of when reality came back. Because for a moment there, I actually thought that I couldn't fail.
Okay. Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, because I heard you speak at the REI meetup, and through the the foreclosures and the bankruptcies and stuff. Can you kind of talk us through that process?
Yeah.
And what it's like to claw your way back out of that? Because I mentioned this earlier too. Like somebody, when that happens to them, that's discouragement for a lot of people. That's almost permanent discouragement, right?
Yeah.
When those things happen, you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't be in this, right?
Yeah.
How did you continue to persevere going forward with that?
I don't know. It almost feels like a different life.
Sure.
So I didn't actually have any foreclosures. I just had bankruptcies. I was able to avoid a foreclosure. I guess actually, no, I did. It wasn't a technical foreclosure. It was basically a land deal that I had to just basically give back to the guy, and we did it that way. But I guess it wasn't an official, I don't know what you would call that actually, but basically I just handed it back and said, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I can't keep paying you. And I lost a bunch of money on that, and then went through bankruptcy. When you're going through it, you're kind of numb and you feel like it's the worst thing in the world. I would say probably was the worst thing in the world that's happened to me, but it was also my own doing. So you're kind of in this weird shame spiral of, I've done the worst thing in the world. I'm an idiot.
Right.
I am no longer a golden god. I am dirt.
Right.
And eventually, once again, I will give credit to my wife for helping me find a path of like, okay, we can do this or we can do that, and finding other things beyond money to then kind of look at and do things for different things other than money. I was doing things for money's sake, just for the sake of doing it. And if you don't have a solid why, if you have no why, you'll kind of eventually just be all over the place and you'll do whatever, and you might eventually crash and burn like I did.
Right.
So it went bankrupt, I think it was 2011. It might have been 2010.
Okay.
Had somewhere in the range of in between 500,000 and 600,000 that I bankrupted. But I asked a lot of questions, so I was able to keep more things than I normally would have by getting the right lawyers, because there was bankruptcy is very confusing. So, but Chapter 7, so full liquidation.
Okay.
And then you kind of there's also expectations. I think family helps a lot. And people just say, oh, you'll be back. And enough people kind of said that, not in a flippant way, but in a kind enough way like, RD's going to be back. Yeah. And so you get back. And then you're like, wow, real estate.
Yeah.
It saved me. It was also fortunate or unfortunate that the world was crashing around us. So we bought a condo. So much stuff was on sale in Seattle. And I really tried to buy everything right after bankruptcy because I was like, this is such an opportunity. We should be buying everything. And my wife was smart enough and also scared enough to say, let's buy one thing. And so then we kind of started slow, but you saw the appreciation, and we made more money on that first deal in the first year than we made working full time. And so then you start to realize, okay, let's go buy something else. Let's figure it out.
Well, let's talk specifically about like, going bankrupt, you lose most of your assets, right?
Yeah.
Like, again, like what's it like buying that first property right after? Like the process of saving towards that first property, like did you have resentment in your heart towards real estate, or did you know that this was going to eventually work out and kind of correct itself?
No, I didn't know.
Okay.
I really didn't know. Everyone was having a hard time at the time. In 2010, 2011, a lot of people are having a hard time. So
Me
it
too.
was, you were having a hard time. Yeah. So the world was on fire, and you were just one of the people on fire.
Yeah.
And so you kind of look around. Real estate wasn't the problem. Real estate did not cause me to go bankrupt. Having a bunch of unsecured debts and not paying attention to some of the paperwork and doing business and not paying attention to payroll and expenses associated with that real estate was the only thing that was actually still going right for me, honestly. If I had a little more time, I probably could have kept the party going. I could have actually avoided bankruptcy if I would have had a little more real estate and a little more time.
Sure.
So real estate was the thing that I actually then looked at and I said, oh, this is the only thing that's really making me money. Everything else that I'm personally doing is kind of making me money, but not nearly as much.
Sure. Interesting. Okay. And like I said, I've never had to go through a bankruptcy or foreclosure or anything like that. So again, a lot of people, they would quit at that point.
Yeah.
Right? Like the fact that you were willing to give this another shot and really put your heart and soul into this thing really speaks volumes about who you are and how you're able to overcome these things. So props to you, man. I think that's super cool.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
And you weren't the only one. Like I went bankrupt, and I also lost a property in 2012. And I bought a property in 2008. And I never blamed the real estate at all. Right. It was always just I didn't really give it enough due diligence. I didn't run my numbers well enough because the rental market didn't change much. It was all just I just spent more than I could afford.
Yes.
And then the economy was tougher, and it was tougher to make income. And it's just how you learn sometimes is you just crash and burn and then you get up. And it was an incredible opportunity back then to buy a lot of real estate, but just didn't know how to do it back then. You weren't the only one back then.
No, I know you were. I told you I'm proud of you too, of course. I just it's cool.
Oh no, I'm just saying I knew many people that got foreclosed on and went bankrupt. Wasn't just you, wasn't just me. There's probably people listening to this podcast are like, yeah, me too.
Like I said, the perseverance to kind of push through that is set for a select few people. Like you and a few other people did that. Not everyone got back up on their feet after that. Some people just quit and said, you know what, maybe a normal job's for me, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is fine.
Yeah, which is fine. But just it's cool to see the rise from the ashes, as we've said in the past, right? So.
In fairness, I did get a normal job at that point. I had no normal jobs, and I basically said, I want a normal job that'll just keep paying me. So I did. That was one of the things. I said, I need a trade, and so I became an electrician. Okay. That is the impetus behind becoming an electrician. And I said, I want to become an electrician, but at some point I would like to get back to real estate and be really full-time onto that. Because I need something that's going to pay. I need an asymmetric bet in which someone's going to pay me to learn for the entire process. I'm still going to be productive, but I will also then make extra money on this. But I did absolutely take a regular job, and I was scared. I was more scared than I probably said at the time.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of power behind the regular job, though, honestly. Having a W-2 job is really nice for getting approved for real estate.
Right.
Especially if you don't have any assets or any other ways to get that going. Get a job.
Yeah.
And get it going. That's one step in the door.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important part people miss. You don't have to skyrocket just to owning 20 businesses and owning, 100 mansions. You just start with a job.
Right.
And start with a purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey says, I love his quote. He said, when you're broke, there's a great place to go to work. And that was the thing to do. And that was the thing that I did. We just went to work. My wife as well. She came back from Africa, going over there she was a missionary over there. She came back in a bunch of debt because she self-funded this whole thing. Yeah. So we were really worse than bankrupt because she had a bunch of debt that wasn't bankruptable. And I still had tax debt.
Sure.
So yeah, just 80-hour weeks.
Did Dave Ramsey really say that?
Absolutely.
Okay. We misquote a lot of people here.
Yeah.
we say a lot of things about Andrew Huberman.
You know what I saw recently? Well, I guess it was maybe a year ago or so. I saw a Dave Ramsey tweet or something, and it said, "Life is short, buy the boat." I was just like, what? Who is this guy? Do you remember hearing about that or seeing that?
I think I saw it, but I don't know if that's fake.
I feel like
people can screenshot a lot.
No, I don't think it was fake. I think he was just given up on giving good financial advice. And he's just like, you know what? You're going to die. Like, he's finally old enough to be like, just enjoy your life. Yeah. Buy the fucking boat.
You know what it is? So I'm a big Dave Ramsey guy, even though I don't follow half of what he says. He says,
I appreciate you being on Team Dave Ramsey because Nick and I had this conversation in an episode.
Yeah.
So thank you. Yes.
Well, I make fun of him all the time, but it doesn't mean I don't listen to his stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's not practical.
Yeah. He's very practical. He says you live like no one else so you can live and give like no one else.
Yeah.
So that quote would have been, I'm sure, from a time in which someone had more than enough money and they got on the opposite side where they were just living in fear. They have $5 million in the bank or something like that. Yeah. And they say, I want to buy a boat and it's this much and you can afford it. And he then says, life's too short, buy the boat. And I've heard him say that to houses, cars, all of those things. Yeah. His rule is if I can throw the pile of cash into the center of my living room, light it on fire, and it doesn't change my life, then you can afford it.
Yeah. Don't buy it using bad debt.
Right.
Yeah. Be smart about the way you do things.
Yes.
And that's a really practical way. I just wanted to make sure because Nick always quotes Andrew Huberman saying we'll start an episode saying what kind of snacks should we have. And Nick will say the most ridiculous.
Chlorine water.
Andrew Huberman says eat digested fish. What? Who else do you take advice from that you think is worthy of taking advice from in this world?
I think there's advice everywhere, and people are so regularly ready to take baby and the bathwater and combine it, and you have to separate it. Yep. So it's very rare that you're going to find something that is 100% pure, and there's very rare that you're going to find something that's 100% evil.
Right.
It's just a matter of recognizing the difference.
Yeah.
Finding who do you trust, who do you see that's trying to live righteous.
Okay.
So there's different preachers that I watch online. I know that this is not a religious podcast at all, but
speak your mind, buddy. Yeah.
But there's different religious figures out there that talk about things. They give you kind of a perspective on life where you recognize it's not just about today. And then you go into all the regular guys. I still listen to Joe Rogan regularly. I still watch and read a lot of books. Trying to think, the book that I like the most is The Art of War, Sun Tzu's Art of War, because it actually really fully encompasses everything that you ever are going to face.
Sure.
Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, obviously, is one of those books that you kind of go through and you listen to and you see, hey, once again, totally amoral, so you got to be very careful. It's like Machiavelli's Prince. You got to be very careful about what you're listening to because some of these things are pretty ruthless and totally inhumane.
Right.
But if you recognize that this is part of what's happening around you, this is the nature of the jungle, you then can recognize, okay, how can I deal with this particular opportunity? And then find a management structure that you can then get with and get behind. So Nick and Joe, management structure, I can get with, I can get behind, and I can say, I don't need to know. Just tell me what you want me to do, and I will go and do that. And as long as I'm not truly bloodied at the end, it makes sense to follow that and see what comes of it.
Yeah. And you've done door-to-door sales, so doing real estate now is probably a walk in the park for you, huh?
It's still actually totally nerve-wracking. I won't lie. When I put in my actual notice, and I know that I will make more money. I know that it's a better life. I know everything about it is going to be better, but you just don't think, you feel like a regular paycheck is easier than an actual, you go out and we're going to do this. And who's going to buy tomorrow? I don't know.
Yeah.
Somebody will.
Yeah. I love that. Like,
There are always houses closing in every market center.
Yeah.
So you just it's still a choice. Like it's unpredictable how much you're going to make, but like you can still do the actions that are going to lead to certain results and just trust the numbers that if I knock on so many doors, I'm going to talk to 3 people. If I talk to 3 people, one of them is going to let me in,
Right.
you know, or whatever those numbers are. And then you could just like set up your week for, I'm going to do this many actions that should, for the average person, lead to this. And you always kind of like, I like to set up my numbers for the average person, and then usually do better because I have more experience.
Right.
But you still have absolute control over your income. It's just not guaranteed, and we can't pinpoint it down.
Right.
But you have absolute control over your actions.
Right.
So yeah, it's a risk for sure. But at least you know what's required, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like I know, but you also never know. See, even closing some of the buyers that are currently under contract, there's been more hiccups than I would have expected with them. And so sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you start to know it.
Yeah, and 40% of deals statistically fall through. Like we try to be better than that, be better than the average. But we also got to like know, just because I got so many pending doesn't mean they're all going to close.
Right.
It means most of them are going to close, but
Right.
not all. And you just got to, you know what you need to make per year to live, and then you set up your habits to exceed that.
I need $1 million a year to live.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, let's do it.
We got to turn this podcast out so we can get to work. And this is part of that work.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, because there's going to be somebody out there listening to this that is in the North Idaho area that wants to buy a property, and they don't have an agent they trust yet, and they can work with you.
Right.
And so what's your number for that person?
208-215-0190. I just got an Idaho number, so I was trying to remember.
Hopefully, I don't say it wrong. If that's
I
the
think that
number.
was the right one, yeah.
Yeah.
and you talked about risk just a minute ago, RD, right? You said like there's a risk by doing this, but there's also a risk by not doing it, right? Like if you think about risk, like if you're risking your W-2 and how much you hit your glass ceiling there, right? Like I don't know what your glass ceiling is, but I'm almost positive you can make more in real estate. What is the risk you need? Can you make $1 million a year doing Spectrum?
I think that would be hard. But I think making $1 million a year in real estate, that was mostly a joke.
Right.
I think making $1 million a year in Spectrum, you probably could, because you get different incentives.
Sure.
You would have to spend a lot of time on it, and you'd have to really love it. And so I think I would burn out far more than I would burn out on real estate.
And you can make money wherever you want. That's kind of what I'm saying. But like, you know, burnout is a very real thing, and you have to really enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think real estate is definitely one of your callings.
Yeah.
So it's good stuff. Nick, do you have any final questions? Do you want to talk about cold plunging a little bit, or do you want me to kind of go into the final questions?
Well, before we do, I'd like to know what keeps you going. Like, what gives you? How are you able to maintain the energy that you need to go through 3 different jobs and have a family every day? Like, what do you do to your mind and body when you wake up, if you don't mind sharing, to give you that kind of energy to get you to bed?
So running is one of the things that helps.
You run every morning, in the mornings, right?
I try to.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect with it.
I just started running.
So running helps. Family helps. I can't speak enough about your home and what your home feels like when you're there, as to whether or not you can go out and just take on the next thing, or you're dealing in your brain with whatever is happening back at home. So not having anything there. I think you also just get used to certain things. I've had basically 2 jobs, or the equivalent of 2 jobs, like 80 hours a week, for the last 15 years.
Okay.
So it's not even a new thing to have this much. This has been too much. This was right on the edge of not breaking me, but I had to make a change. That's why I got rid of Spectrum, because I thought that I could maybe keep it going, but I can't.
Can't do more than 80 hours a week.
You can do 168 hours in a week, right? So then you just have to break it down and say, how many hours do I need to sleep? How many hours do I need to spend with these people? And then you also do multiple things at the same time. So for instance, open houses. I'll have my family come out to an open house because I like seeing them. They can bring me food. And if there's other people that show up, they'll talk to the people that are there while I'm talking to another, if it's a really busy one. So I've gotten phone numbers from people that my wife got while I was talking to another customer.
Oh, nice.
She's not spending the time as a real estate agent. She's not saying anything like that. She's just like, I'm the wife and handing this off, the food and such. But
She's like, give me a phone number.
yes, she is very aggressive. She's very mean. No.
Why, buddy? We can go back and fix this. We said we loved her earlier.
She's the sweetest person in the world. She is
aggressive now. She's taking it back.
Yeah. No, she's really not. But you basically just try to find the things. So even in real estate, I am doing things that I enjoy. I like to be active. I like to be out and walking around. So if you're doing a door-to-door job, you're physically walking around. So you're kind of getting some of your exercise there. I have found the more I sit in front of a computer, the more I sit in general, the more tired I am.
Yeah.
So I really try to avoid being there.
It's a real thing.
Try to avoid as much sugar as I can, but I do love sugar. And then try to eat healthy, even though I eat too much. And then every day, I think having either a prayer or a meditation practice of some sort in which you're actually going deep within yourself, recognizing the frailty of your life and that your life will come to an end. Your life is on its way out. We didn't talk about it, but I thought I was going to have open heart surgery a year ago.
Okay.
That will give you like a perspective on your life as to where you're at and what's going to go on. How much time do you have? You think you have more than you do. You start focusing on that. I used to do a thing called death meditation, and that really will get you up and going. Because if you meditate on your death in the morning, you will be like, what do I need to do today?
Wild.
What do you mean by that? Are you just like visualizing what your death will be like, or the after death,
Or the time, probably.
or
All of it.
Yeah.
You visualize, and in the beginning, if you closed your eyes and you were to visualize you actually being dying in some way. Now, it's usually easier to do it in like a horrific way,
Right.
being like in a car crash or something like that, the pain associated with that, and allow that. When you first start doing that, you'll like hyperventilate almost, or I did. I personally did. I'm not going to speak to anyone else's experience. Over time, you then can understand something will bad happen to me. I will be in pain. And then you kind of get over that. And you start then going to the worst possible thing. And you say, this is the worst possible outcome. So if this is the worst possible outcome, I'll take a step back from that. It's probably not going to be that bad. So whatever is happening today won't be that bad.
in your mind, what is the worst possible outcome of your death? Are you talking about like being set on fire?
There's so many different potentials. So
That's where I'm thinking now. Like, dude, if I got mauled by like a mountain lion or like six,
Oh, that'd be the worst.
or like fall into like a fiery pit of
Mauled by a bear.
Yeah.
Yes, and yes. There is a thing. My dad's a firefighter, and they have this thing called the jaws of life.
Uh-huh.
But when you see that thing, the thing that I saw, because they were talking about this as like a safety thing, is you got to be careful with this thing because how much. But you think if that thing were to rip into you or something, there is 1,000 ways for you to find your end, accidentally or intentionally, and each of those would be incredibly painful. And also would then affect the people that are around you. So you have a wife and kids.
Yeah.
You have a wife and kids. That's going to negatively affect you. So we have to find a way to kind of move through the pain and the thought of that and then say, today I'm going to be the person that I would want to be if this was my last day.
It helps having life insurance when I think about this stuff. Like if I think about getting mauled by that million murder hornets, well, at least my wife will get $1 million. That's kind of cool.
Are those still around?
I have no idea, but like that'd be a bad way to go. Like the buzzing and the stinging, like that's like my
Macaulay Culkin all over again.
yeah, right. That's wow, triggered.
I don't have life insurance, so I have high blood pressure. I can't get life insurance.
Oh, you can't?
Yeah.
Why not? Because they actually said you can't get it.
Yeah, I just have too much stuff.
Well, with all the Iron, because you're doing Ironmans regularly now, like has that brought your blood pressure down?
Not really.
As you
much.
become a lot more athletic? No?
Have you tried Honey Nut Cheerios? It says on the box.
Yeah, Honey Nut Cheerios.
There, it's not cholesterol; it's blood pressure. Yeah. But it's as far as for me that matters. It's very interesting. When I was having the whole heart thing, I had my heart rate. I was doing so much soccer and so much running that my resting heart rate at night was in the 35. So it was incredibly low because I was that in shape.
Holy
and
shit.
my blood pressure was still elevated. So there's a lot of things that have to do with your diet, and it's very confusing as to which diet you should use. And then there's a lot of things that have to do with genetics as well. And it's very unclear. So running will help, being in shape helps, but it's not enough to overwhelm.
Okay. So we probably shouldn't be...
Sorry, you were declined life insurance because your blood pressure is too high?
I've had tuberculosis. So when you have tuberculosis, that's another thing.
Sure.
There's so many components to my life that make it so that they
I've never heard of anyone getting declined. I've just heard of the price going up.
There was some sort of issue, and maybe it's, I don't know. You know what?
Sure.
I don't take, so this is the other thing. As far as all of the components of my life that I don't do, I don't take care of any of the bills. My wife does all of that. I don't take care of any
How's your blood pressure high? My blood pressure's high from taking care of my bills.
Well, I know that they exist. I just don't know, where does this go? I just don't know where anything goes.
Yeah.
So I believe that I was declined because of that. And also because of the heart thing, I'm still within a certain amount of time from that diagnosis. So I had a weird heart attack thing. I've had enough stuff where they say, you are not the person.
So you're not. You don't qualify.
And maybe I could. I don't know if that's a possibility now, but I know that I was declined based off of circumstances and I've almost always had some sort of medical issue that was happening. Sure. So maybe now. Maybe today is the day.
I don't know if you have a life insurance agent, but I can hook you up with Josh Hykilla.
I don't have anybody. Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's a good guy to talk to.
Yeah, let's do it.
Anyway, he's a financial advisor.
He was on our podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, the reason why I'm asking is because that gives me peace of mind, right? In my death, knowing that things are going to be carried out and executed in a manner. I still need to get my will set up. I need to get my trust set up. Nick set up his trust. So props to you. But that's all stuff that will give you peace of mind in death. It's not like I'm not scared of dying, but I'm not really scared of dying. I just know that things will be okay.
I didn't think I was scared of dying until I thought I was going to die 2 years ago, and then I realized I was.
Yeah.
I literally death meditated all the time. I truly thought that I did not care. I've been in multiple situations in the moment where life was on the line, at least in my mind, and I truly did not think I cared. And then when I had that, I then realized in a real moment, I actually do care in this real moment. And I can't speak to anyone else's experience. I think that you don't know until you're actually right there. And the death isn't even so much about the finances of it, because they'd be fine mostly. We live in America. Sure. My wife's a nurse. She could handle it. She's fine. Yeah. So it's not about that. It's something beyond that where you're then personally involved. And it's a much more painful thing for me to be injured than for you to be injured for me. Sure. Same thing's true for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have unpeace of mind, but I have enough stuff that I want to do that it seems like it'd be very difficult to check out at this moment. I got stuff to do.
Up, man. We can't go down.
We can't go down right now.
Yeah. We're busy. We got stuff to do.
How did this get so dark?
Well, we talked about death meditations and the most horrible people. That's probably how it started.
It started with Dave Ramsey.
Yeah. This is Dave's fault.
Yeah. Fuck you, Dave. So I don't listen to a lot of preachers, but if you had to recommend one that has given you the most perspective, I guess, which preacher would you recommend if someone wanted to listen to somebody new?
So it depends on where you're coming from. So it depends. Better way to say it. So there's different styles of preaching, right? So for instance, there's T.D. Jakes, very famous preacher, but a very, very black experience. So he is preaching in a particular way. The cadence, the whole thing is a very specific thing. I think it's powerful, but it also can be, it's just a very specific experience, I guess is the best way to say it. So then if you talk about Mark Driscoll, he speaks to men, I would say, fairly well. and I think that he is very... Mark Driscoll is a famous preacher, and I think he speaks to men pretty well. There's a guy named Chip Ingram. Chip Ingram is more...
I like that name.
It's a good name, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he speaks more into like a little more biblically as opposed to into your life, if that makes sense. So it's kind of, there's Chuck Swindoll. I really like Chuck Swindoll. He's old school though, so he's almost like, if you went to his church, I bet you there'd be a bunch of hymns. It wouldn't be modern. But even my original home church, Westgate Chapel, there's a guy named Alec Rollins, and his stuff is online. Their music is off the chain, like really, truly some of the best in-person music that you get into. So, and then his preaching as a general rule is fairly like, it's right there as well. So there's a lot of different people and a lot of different things. I guess when you go into it, it kind of depends on who speaks to you, but that's a fairly wide gamut of all the different, a little more like, I don't know. Some preachers are almost like accountants, and some preachers are
so everyone's got a little different flavor.
A very different flavor, yeah. And some guys are like rock stars, like, yeah. So
yeah, when I think my favorite preachers, I just think like Tony Robbins and and Killer Mike.
And they preach as well. Yes, absolutely.
Is Killer Mike a preacher?
No.
Well, it comes off that way in his music.
Okay.
I love it.
Oh my goodness.
Like, run the jewels, buddy. Let's go.
Yeah, there's a guy called Pastor Troy, not a pastor, but he has a...
Oh, my life is ruined. I know all about Pastor Troy.
You know Pastor Troy, yeah. And it's his song, Vice Versa. I love that song in particular because it's a juxtaposition. I love juxtapositions, and I love his whole thought. It's a crazy thought. It's totally...
I'm never scared.
Right, yes.
Is that Pastor Troy?
That also is Pastor Troy,
Okay, yeah.
But
I don't know why I remember that.
Vice Versa is another song that really, as far as when you're trying to think about the spiritual nature of things, is interesting. So
DMX did some preaching.
DMX has actually a song of prayers, or a whole album of prayers right now, where you can go and listen.
It's not exactly good advice for the most part. Like, his prayers are good, but then you hear the next song, you're like, ooh, you didn't mean any of that, did you?
Once again, baby and the bathwater. We talked about this.
Yeah.
Baby and the bathwater. You got to be real
It's all about
careful.
balance, Jeremy.
It is about balance.
Well, David was a murderer, an adulterer, and was named by God as one so close to his heart. Man is imperfect. So the nature of man is to be imperfect. No matter who it is, they will have made a mistake.
Sure.
You have to be forgiven of sin. Mm-hmm. If you haven't sinned, then it's just not possible to not have sinned. But most people that have done great things have sinned greatly as well.
Yeah, that's true. It just, you hear DMX and you talk about all the slang and the bad things he does. He's like, but it's okay. I did a prayer on my album.
Right.
all is forgiven.
Yes.
I made amends.
I made amends. It is complicated. It's the gift of salvation is complicated. Once again, I'm not trying to preach to you guys, but I do believe in real estate and I do believe in Jesus. So it is that those are the two things that I believe the most in, and I do know have the biggest impact in my life.
Okay. Very good. What do you think about that, Nick?
I'm still thinking, like, is DMX dead? Did he die?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He's dead.
Yeah, that's all I was thinking. I didn't want to say it out loud.
I think Pimp C is dead as well. So
Pepsi?
Pimp C?
Pimp C.
Yeah.
I don't know
UGK?
Pimp C. I don't know that one.
Bun B and Pimp C?
Yeah. UGK, they were in a Jay-Z song. Don't worry about it.
I don't listen to much Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Not since 99 Problems.
Well, sounds like you got 100 problems. No, I think we're getting close to wrapping this thing up. What do you think? We're at an hour and 5 minutes.
We can do whatever we want. No one's listening at this point.
They're still watching.
What kind of advice do you want to give? Instead of going into the questions, if you're okay with that, I'd like to... What advice do you have out there for the young people that want to get ahead in life, but they're just struggling?
It depends on what you mean by ahead, but
They want to be better than they are today, tomorrow.
it's you. It's you. It ain't anybody else. Somebody else is not going to solve it. It is you. Every time you think someone is going to save you, they're not going to. And that could be depressing, or it can be freeing. It's you. You live in America. We've both been broke twice.
Yeah.
We've been broke twice. And it's America. You can't be in a better place. If you're in a different country, I don't know. I'm not going to talk about that. But if you are, this is specifically for America and specifically for the Northwest, because I don't know the whole country, but I do know that there is more opportunity. There are more things that I say no to on a daily basis that would make me $1 million over the next 5 years than I have time to do. It is the most difficult. You said it's hard for me to say no. I actually say no so much because there are so many opportunities. I recognize on any given day, a trade is an easy path for you to go down and find whatever you want if you like that. You can go to school. I'd say be very careful about spending money on college and going into debt for that. Right. But we have more opportunity than ever before. Yeah. And it continues to be more opportunity. Be like the wind, be like water. Mm-hmm. I love Sun Tzu that says there's opportunity in chaos. So no matter what is happening today, whatever chaos you are in today, we can move past that into some sort of amazing future. Yeah. And I believe that about everybody watching, listening, wherever you're consuming this.
That goes along really well with it. I just heard Alex Hormozi say this on a podcast just like yesterday. He mentioned that today, like in America, 2025, 2020, we're in the New Year's now. It's never been easier to be successful. Yep. However, it's never been easier to be distracted at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's what 80% of people struggle with more than anything is just distractions.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to get caught, but so easy to be successful too. You just got to know and be aware of those distractions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Write down what you want and start moving towards it. It took me 10 years to get here. It'll take me, my goal is 2030 work optional. That's my goal. 2030. I have the next goal on the line is 2030 work optional. The next goal is whatever it'll be, but put something in front of yourself and just start moving down a path. Find somebody that'll give you good advice and just follow that advice. It doesn't have to be perfect advice, because if you follow somebody's advice, if they're charging you for the advice, be very cautious. I'm not suggesting that there's a mastermind that's going to solve it for you. Forget the mastermind. Find someone local, especially if you're young. There is somebody that will speak into your life. I cannot speak to how many people have spoken into my life for free that have made $0 off me, had nothing involved in my future other than just saying, hey, I can see you're going places. I can see you're trying to do this. Maybe try to do it this other way. And mostly all I did was say, oh, thanks. And half the time I'd listen and half the time I didn't. Most of the time I didn't, I regretted it. Yep. But you just have to keep that thing going. You are the answer. There's so many distractions. You asked me how I keep going. One of the things, my number one thing is still distractions. Mm-hmm. I'll get on Facebook or YouTube and just keep scrolling through those shorts.
Yeah.
I can spend 2 hours at night. It's so addicting. It is
it's built that way.
It is.
It's made to be that.
It is.
It's made to capture us.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being a guest.
Yeah. Thank you, Marty. That was great.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully you're prepared. You're going to jump in the cold plunge right after this.
Right.
So if you're still willing and able, it's 38 degrees in that water. Yeah. I checked this morning. I jumped in it.
Good.
Did 3 minutes. We'll see if you can do longer than me.
Oh, no.
I love it. I love the
And Jeremy will be in there too.
Yes, he's definitely, Jeremy is definitely coming.
It's like, I didn't bring
We talked about this earlier. Like, I'm not a cold plunger, man. Like,
I've never done it before.
You've never done a cold plunge?
No.
Oh, is that why you're excited about getting me to join? Because you want me to join with you for a thing you've never done?
You guys can both fit in that little tub.
I'm excited. I've heard that it's good for you. A lot of people swear by it. Nick is swearing by it.
A lot of people swear by it. I like to make jokes. I said, what's the average lifespan of a human who lived during the Ice Age?
We don't know.
33 years. I Googled it today.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So because I haven't cold plunged, I'm 37. I've effectively...
Yeah, but... Dude,
have you heard of correlation and causation? I think there is.
They didn't have Costco.
Yeah.
Back then. They didn't have indoor plumbing.
How do you know they didn't have Costco?
But the cold would have helped them. How do I know?
Okay.
Because
let me ask you a question, Nick. When you get in your car in the morning, do you turn your heated seats on?
No. because I already have them preset.
Right. So you do a cold plunge, but then you get in your car and you turn your heater on before you start. Like, you're choosing to do a hard thing, but then you're choosing to do not the hard thing, not the whole way through.
Oh, no, sir.
Oh no!
Listen, the hard thing is you want your body to heat up naturally, and that's what gives you all your power. You're shivering and all that stuff. So it's not just the fact that you're in the water for 2 minutes or whatever, 3 minutes. It's you don't want to cool. You don't want to like jump in a hot shower right away. Like you want your body to take the time to like shiver its way out.
Okay.
Or whatever.
So
Andrew Human,
in the morning when it's cold outside and I'm shivering in my car. Does that count?
It doesn't mean you have to be cold the rest of the day.
Nick, I'm messing with you, by the way.
And it's more, and it's a mindset thing too. It's like you're training yourself to do something every day that you don't want to do. I never want to jump in the cold plunge, but I do it anyway because it's just part of doing something hard right at the beginning of the day. Sure. That just makes the rest of the day a little bit easier.
Okay. Yeah. I think the difference between like that and like a true warrior, like true warriors don't get to choose when they go into cold plunge. They just get submerged.
Right. But like yesterday, I was on a roof with a t-shirt on, cutting down a bunch of branches off this flip house, and it started snowing. And I noticed that I was totally fine. And it was, snowing, the wind was blowing. The battery ran out, but I had this handsaw that I found in the house, and I did the rest of the job just cutting. But like, I had already trained like the last month of jumping in like ice cold water.
Yeah.
And it just, I felt like that really kind of helped prep me for that moment. Even though I was moving around, you kind of create heat anyway, but like,
sure,
that was a breeze for me. It was fine. So I felt like it's making me a little bit tougher every day to handle the winter in North Idaho.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And Andrew Huberman said, do it.
Right.
Do it.
Yeah.
Well, don't they say choose your hard? And so he's choosing his hard because your life is too good. And so you have to do something. If you don't do this, you'll do something else to sabotage your life. I think that is the thing. Choose your hard.
Yeah. And it's also, I forgot which doctor said this it was one of Andrew Huberman's podcasts, but he said like intentional cold exposure, like cold plunges and stuff, it's outside of diet, it's the fastest way to lose weight.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Oh. Outside of diet, it's the fastest, most effective way to lose weight. So I don't know exactly how it works, but the doctor said it on Andrew Huberman, so whatever. Might as well do it.
I wonder if that's because you're shivering so much and that's like a bunch of calories.
Oh yeah, you're shedding calories like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. It's just like what's the famous swimmer? Michael something? Phelps? Yeah, so he usually trains in a pool for like 4 hours a day or something like that, or 8 hours a day, but he'll go like he burns an insane amount of calories. And the water temperature is like 70 degrees or something like that, and it's like the water temperature that's really burning all the calories in his 4 or 8 hours of practice or whatever. But we're talking like 10,000 plus calories a day that he's burning just by being in that water.
You don't think it's from the force resistance of him doing?
Well, it's also the workout too, but a lot of people work out.
Yeah.
A lot of people are walking or running throughout the day. They don't burn that many calories, but yeah. Anyway.
It has to be the cold. It has to be that because a full iron or a half iron is like 10,000 calories, and that's way more hours than that.
Yeah.
So it has to be the cold.
Yeah. Science doesn't lie, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't like being cold, man. Like, you can choose hard other places, but
how do you choose your hard?
I eat a very candy-based diet, and it makes my soup.
Chocolates?
Reese's.
Oh my goodness.
No. I know. I don't choose hard things. I choose things that are positive for me, like positive reinforcement, reading. I try to provide happiness for my life.
Yeah.
Because I think like the more I can keep my mental state in check, the happier and more peaceful I will end up being. But that's me. And again, like, props to you for doing the cold plunges. It's not something that's ever spoken to me. So,
Yeah.
I do a lot of mental work.
Good.
Yeah.
Better than me.
I know we talked about visualization with you, Nick. You're like, I can't do the positive affirmations in the mirror.
No, I can't.
You can't tell yourself that you're wonderful. And
I've tried it before. I just feel like a queer.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is hard because it feels weird.
Because it just doesn't feel like it's something I don't enjoy doing it, and it's like I don't feel like it brings any value to me personally. I know it helps a lot of people, but like I feel like I know myself better than most people, and if I'm looking in the mirror, trying to tell myself great things, I'm just gonna come off as this guy's a fucking psychopath, and I don't want anything to do with it.
Now,
Instead, I'd rather just do things that I don't want to do that I know are going to make my life better, and then I can be proud of that guy.
Are you having a hard time because what you're saying to yourself you don't believe to be true, or?
I just think it's fucking ridiculous,
Oh, okay.
and I can't stop myself from not thinking that.
Okay.
You know, that's just.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Yeah.
Works for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Works for most people, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm just not one of those guys.
Yeah.
And to each his own, you know. Like I said, you do the cold plunges. I think it's great, but it's again something
Yeah.
that's just never spoken to me. So,
That I feel.
but I will support you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I feel coming out of there, I feel like then I can smile in the mirror like you did something you didn't want to do, and I know it's paying off. I can feel it. I can feel it in my body that I did a lot that I didn't want to do.
So if you weren't looking in the mirror when you were doing this, if you were just saying it to yourself, would you be able to say, like, for instance, when I'm running at a certain point, I start feeling very tired, and I say, ridiculous. I say, RD means business. RD means business.
Yeah.
And I go whatever I need to be able to. I lie to myself. I tell myself, you are the best. You are the man. There was a guy, I don't know if it's actually, maybe it's an apocryphal story, but there was a guy named Alligator that worked with Mike Tyson that before his fights would just amp him up, be like, you're the best, you are the man, you know what you're doing, you're an unbelievable, and I do that same thing. Yeah. You are the boss, you are so good at this, you're going to be the best. I'm going, no miles an hour sort of a deal.
Right.
So I can do that I can lie to myself there, and then it's hard to look in the eye at the mirror, but if I'm saying something that I know to be true about myself, it doesn't seem like a problem to then say that to myself, even if I can't say it in a mirror. So if it wasn't a mirror and you were just saying it to yourself in general, like in your car, you still couldn't say something nice about yourself?
No, because I feel like I'm always looking at myself in the third person too, and I would be like, "What? Why is that queer fag saying those things to himself?"
Dude, your negative self-talk is clearly evident that you need this.
And this is going to sound insanely narcissistic. Mm-hmm. If I were to say that stuff out loud, I'd be like, "Yeah, I know I'm awesome. Like, shut up, leave me alone. I know I can do whatever I want to do. I don't need encouragement for myself." I just need to do the actions to feel better, not to say it. I don't get off to, my good self-talk or whatever you want to call it. I get off to actually doing things, and then I can feel, I can smile in my head. I won't even smile out loud. But in my head, I'll smile and be proud of myself for doing something I didn't want to do that day that I knew was going to make tomorrow better.
When you do these things for yourself, does it impact other people in a positive way? Does your cold plunges, does it make you a better husband?
Sure.
Does it make you more patient with your kids?
Yes.
So does self-talk.
Not to me.
Great. Well,
But I can see how that.
Point, though, right? Like the things I do, like I'm living on an outward existence. Like, how can I be a better person for other people in my life? And it starts with being the best version of myself. Right? How can I be the best version of myself? I can take care of myself. I can work out, and I can love myself. But I can also be hard on myself. But I don't have to get in a bucket of ice water to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just
Charlie's Theron.
Yeah,
you know?
Charlie's Theron. I'm not recommending everybody like you guys need cold plunge. I'm not one of those people. I don't think I am. Hopefully, I don't come across that way.
You're getting there.
You've asked me if
know-
I was going to do it about 10 times. So.
I just know. Well, you mentioned that you wanted to do it.
I'm joking.
Like Jeremy, how many times have I told you you got to do it?
Lately, a lot.
Okay.
Every time I come over, and then at your REW dubs.
All right. So never mind everything.
The thing you're becoming is you're becoming the person who's cold plunging just to say I'm a cold plunger. Like,
I know.
don't walk around saying like I talk to myself in the mirror every day. I do the silent work, right? Like I do that work to myself. I don't need to post on social media like I had a nice discussion with myself this morning.
That sucks. I've become one of those CrossFit people that never shut up about CrossFit.
Right.
I think if you have something good,
okay, I'm
going to
try to stop talking.
No. If you have something good, you should talk about it. That is the thing.
Maybe that's what
why
it is.
you can
It's
knock on the
exciting
door.
because I know like how it's making a difference in my behavior throughout the day.
Exactly right.
Absolutely. But there's only so many times I can swipe on social media by someone saying like cold plunge.
I know.
Cold plunge. I'm like, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you there. It's annoying as shit, and then I'm doing it at the same time. But I'm not putting it on Facebook.
I know. Last night, Julie Holly talked about your micro things or whatever, and you said you're doing cold plunges. One of the micro things I was going to say, and I didn't because I didn't want to be a dick, was hearing about you.
You should have said it.
Because you called me out for having high interest rates in my personal loans. And I was a joke. Really
I was just trying to say something funny, and you should have higher interest rates.
Yeah.
I wanted to be like, dude, how many times have I bailed you out? No, but we got completely off topic here.
We're having a good time.
We're on topic.
Yeah.
Talk about whatever we want to talk about.
We can. It's live. We don't even have to post this.
Yeah.
We should.
We shouldn't.
I'm going to delete it. I'm just kidding.
We don't do that. Let's not get to that point.
Yeah.
But, any final closing thoughts, Artie?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I appreciate.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks for vibing.
Thanks for being a great friend.
Yeah.
And we look forward to working with you for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Please don't leave us like Tyler and Caitlin did.
I have no intention. I really don't. I don't like a lot of things. And I also, you want to talk about knowing yourself. I know that I hate doing paperwork. Sabra, we didn't call you out. I appreciate you, Sabra. I hate doing the things that you do, and I love the fact that you like doing those things. So Sabra is
Yes, thank you, Sabra.
I'm not sure what Sabra would be considered on the team, but
She's
does
our
all the
team
paperwork.
manager.
Team manager. There you go. So, yeah, she makes it much easier. Find what you hate and make sure you pass that off to somebody else.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love it.
All righty. Well, let's wrap it up then.
Cool.
Everybody, thanks for listening. Next week, we have Joe Turner. So please stick around for that one. And don't forget that we have 100 episodes to listen to as well. So
At least.
At least 100. Bit more than that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you next week on the Investor Shed podcast. Thanks for
Bye, everyone.
joining.